Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Ray Orsini, and I'm back on MSP Community Live, where we talk about all the coolest stuff going on, the hot topics going on in all the MSP communities. That includes our MSP. That includes that, what's that little group you guys have online? It started with like a Slack or something. Something with geeks. What's the name of it, Kyle?
Geeks R Us?
Geeks R Us. That's what it was. I think. Oh, I have a properly sized logoed hat. And for anybody that wants to know the story behind this, ask us at you'll be going to Connect, right? Well, better than Connect. You'll be going to something next week or in a week and change.
It seems like it's tomorrow, to be honest.
Danny, bring it up. I'm going to see you next week. Sir, you are the progenitor of this. You are the brainchild. You are the one that brought this to fruition with a ridiculous group of people in the geek community helping out. But what is this and why is this awesome?
MSP GeekCon. It is a conference that's basically dedicated to those in the MSP industry. You highly encouraged, I would downright say forced to make this happen. You deserve just as much credit as I do. The event itself is something that exists in certain aspects at other conferences, but we wanted to make sure MSP Geek as a whole is a nonprofit organization, and our only desire is to educate and elevate those in the MSP industry. MSPs, vendors included, they're just a part of the community as we are, as MSPs are. Consultants, anyone who interacts in this space deserves to be educated and elevated, and it's a super important thing for us, and that's what the conference is about. It's about education, it's about learning. Every single session that we have available is geared towards education, and it's not given out, it's earned. Everyone submits a session. So even if it's from a vendor or if it's from a consultant, it's a session that's submitted. It's non-sales related, unless it's about how to sell. The goal isn't to sell to you. The goal is to educate you. So it's all earned. None of it's given. None of it's, sold. So that's something we pride ourselves on, to make sure that's important, because it's education. And we want to make sure that we provide that and have a nice space for that as well to happen with.
And I believe Mendy's still doing the what was it? He's taking submissions for the 10-minute. Is that still going on?
I believe so. It's called the Lightning Talks. You can go on LinkedIn, and the post is available there on the MSP Geek page. Basically, it's a 10-minute talk during, we have 2 days where we have them. You can get up and speak in 10 minutes about a specific topic you feel comfortable for. It's good prep, especially if you're looking to maybe give a session in the future. It's good practice. It's a very low-key, low-intensity, presentation that you provide. Like, you don't even need a PowerPoint. You can just stand up and talk. That's kind of how it is. And it's super important, especially if you want to get your feet wet and providing education to larger audiences. It's one of the new things we do here.
And that's one of the things I love about GeekCon is that it is truly education focused, and the education is picked by the people most affected by that education that have used it over the years. This is not salesy. It's not vendor driven. It is just people trying to raise the tide, so to speak. So hats off. It is a ridiculous amount of work to those that put all their work into it this year. Last year was phenomenal. This year will be just as phenomenal, if not better. So go buy tickets. And if you're struggling with the financials of buying a ticket, reach out to Kyle, reach out to myself. We do have some resources. There's some vendors that have been nice enough to give out tickets. So hit us up because we want to see you there at MSP GeekCon.
Yeah.
All right. Enough pandering, enough shilling, even though it's a worthwhile endeavor. It doesn't count as shilling, right? So let's get this first story up. I'm looking at this, and it is okay. That's the Control-Delete. No, that's what we just covered, Danny. Let's go.
The next number one.
The next number one. There you go. So this story is shit. I realized. There you go. So PSA when onboarding a new client, make sure all the old MSP accounts are deactivated and forwarded to your company. I don't think you and I are going to have a lot of differing opinion on this. It sounded as a good PSA, honestly.
Yeah.
Kyle, I mean, I've been bit by this. I know my auditing practices when I first started MSP were not the same as my my exit days, not to the same quality. Do you have any experiences with this or any stories you want to share, those that have not been bitten yet?
So this is an interesting thing because as your MSP grows, your processes, your standards, and your systems change. So when you have a system, when you have something like because you may not have a PSA during the early days, but so you're going to set an email box for this tool, Fortinet or whatever, to email you to this email box that you get emailed on. It doesn't go to your PSA, it goes to your email, and then you just kind of leave it there because it's there. And
I may or may not have my ConnectWise email connector still up today, even though I haven't been unmanaged in years.
Exactly. See, so you may have like specific systems. They may be like a one-off tool you decided to sell to one client that's still there, and it's like people barely know it exists. Only your accountant team does, is because they see the money going out for that product. So I would highly recommend anyone self-audit themselves to see what tools and stuff they have going to what random email boxes and standardize that system. And during your offboarding, you should deactivate your own stuff. Don't rely on the other MSP to do it for you.
Yeah, I that's the worst. I mean, back in the days before, like Huntress was a good example. LabTech, the Automate agent was a good example. In the very early days, because you and I are both Huntress users from very, very early. But the agent didn't auto uninstall, right? Stale agents just stayed there forever. So that was a frustrating thing. Screen Connect was very much similar in the early days, as was Automate. So there were always those things. I remember when I moved from Enable to Automate, there were a few lingering agents that at that point I had no ability to. I mean, obviously I could run local commands and remove them, but I had no dashboard ability to remove them. That became a headache. So real simple, nothing, not complicated. I don't think there's a lot of disagreement there. I just thought it was worth telling everybody. All right, let's go on to this next story. Beware the bait. This one's a little more interesting. Beware the bait. Sneaky scams slip through the contact page. I have a small MSP. Through my website's contact page, I get the following message. We need computer hardware. I'm just going to read the messages because I've gotten these many, many times. Usually it's somebody out of the blue. They want some ridiculous number of either computer systems or peripherals. I've gotten it for you'll see here the RTX cards. I've gotten this before for they want to buy 100, RTX, whatever, 3090s or whatever the du jour is. Have you ever gotten this? I know you don't do the sales side, but have you ever gotten this stuff?
I have not seen anything like this come across. This is interesting.
That may be because your career has always been focused on the technical side, so you wouldn't be the one.
Yeah, but I get the alerts when they fill out a form and they somebody put me in them.
Yeah,
I don't want them. But I've never seen anything like this come across. Well, anything that I've immediately saw and recognized as something that's a potential scam. So it's entirely possible it's happened.
Yeah, Danny brings up a good point. It's gotten to the point where it's a running joke inside the company, but we may have made it part of training, part of onboarding. Inevitably, somebody will get a text or an email saying, "Hey, this is Ray. I need I have a project for you. Go to Amazon or Best Buy or whatever. Give me a bunch of gift cards. It's a last minute thing. Thanks. Sent from my iPhone." So besides the reindeer games or baby reindeer nonsense, I just find it's funny that how quickly attackers or whatever can do their stuff. I have gotten this before. It's the IT version of, and I've gotten this many times. It's the IT version of the Nigerian Prince. It got to the point where the first few, especially my early MSP days, back when I was doing per device pricing or monitoring only or all the other stuff that my initial changes before the final form, I would get these in the first couple. Yeah, sure enough. I emailed them, "Hey, what's up? How can I help you?" Cautiously, but I was still curious. And every single time it was total scam. So we still get them all the time because people still can't figure out we're not an MSP anymore. So
Yeah.
it happens.
So I'm curious, how does this like work? Because obviously that's a real company.
Yeah. I don't know.
Area code
I don't even
matches.
know if it's a real company. I think there's.
Well-
I've never gotten to the point where it was worth doing it, or with any transactions, any financials actually took place. But I would imagine some kind of wire fraud or something like that.
That'd be my guess. Is like you would,
Yeah.
you'd send an invoice, they'd pay it, and then you
Yeah.
ship the stuff out, and then it'd be fake. But that
Yeah.
company actually exists, and that area code matches where they're at. So that's interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So either it's a really good scam or it's not.
Yeah. Or you're missing out some decent revenue, my dude.
Right?
Well, okay, with that, okay, so that's a good point because you could argue this is in the same vein as phishing and smishing and quishing and all the other nonsense names that have come up. Not making fun of Connor and phishing, that's a legit one, but the rest of them are kind of stupid. But how do you, when you're looking at stuff like this is an email. I think most of us could spot a phishing email at this point, right? Most of us get the text from out of the blue of, oh, hey, how you doing? Or are we still on for drinks tonight or whatever bullshit? And it's always a scam. I hope. If I don't have your number, I apologize. Discord me. But what are you looking at when it's this stuff? It's out of band. You get what I'm saying? When they get that phone call, when they get that thing that is not an email that you know very well, but they get something that's a little out of the norm. Like what qualifiers are you using when you're looking at that stuff?
So the first thing I noticed, because there's a further email exchange. I'm looking at the company name. I'm seeing if that's valid. I'm looking at the phone number, see if the area code matches. I would then look for the name to see if they're on LinkedIn and employed at that company. But again, this goes to if I'm already suspicious. I'm not sure that some of the wording doesn't seem, the phrasing doesn't seem someone from Arizona is typing it. So that's what initially made me start looking.
Okay, I can see
But
that.
if you look at the links he sent, that's not the domain of the company.
Oh, okay.
So
look at you getting all Inspector Gadget on this shit. Nice.
Well, I moused over it, and it's not even the link. Like the link goes to a different website, which is the real one, but the words matches his email domain.
Okay, there you go. So much more detailed than this is the difference between a current CEO and somebody currently looking at the tech and staying on top of all that shit. Leave the bigger brain to figuring this shit out. I love it. Here, we don't even try. Don't get me wrong. We train everybody, blah, blah. But here, when in doubt, just have CSE review, which is our core services engineering team. We just let them do it for the exact same reason. And I've forwarded some stuff over. I'm like, damn, this looks good, but let me know. And if it doesn't, and if it's not legit, put that as a phishing template because that's really fucking good. So.
Yeah, I mean, like they set up. I'm assuming that domain existed because they were exchanging emails back and forth. They set up a domain because it doesn't work now. I tried. So they set up a domain. They set up a. I'm assuming if you called that number, you'd probably get to them. Would be my guess.
Yeah.
But the person on the other line probably wouldn't sound like a Rob Miller.
I'm guessing. And this is ballsy too. I mean, setting a phone number anybody can do. Setting up an email address, a domain, getting websites set up. You're adding a lot of fodder for the FBI or somebody to look into. Like anybody can send a scam email and send a fake wire transaction. You can open a bank account in 2 seconds, especially overseas. But that's somebody invested. I would even argue that if it is a scammer, that's a scammer that's a business that has this down to a science.
It's all automated probably on the back end or something.
Yeah, that's impressive. So there you go, MSPs. All right. This is something I know you already have experience with. It's a constant conversation between ChatGPT and all the other AIs and and I know you've definitely looked at it for your service desk and even MSP Geek and everything else. Can CoPilot help MSPs? I have my hands on CoPilot for 365. Helps me do office type tasks like formatting Excel tables, email drafts, transcribing Teams messages. I really haven't found a use to assist it with my daily sysadmin tasks. Any of you use CoPilot to improve time to resolution for incident troubleshooting? Have you integrated it to data sources to bring information together quicker? It has access to my OneDrive and SharePoint files, so it helps when I need to quickly ask for instructions that are documented on Word or PDF and SharePoint. Does it help you guys so can improve my efficiency? Sounds like this guy or this person's already on a good path. Sounds like they're looking, they're currently applying it to ways to make their day better. Any advice you have here for him, Kyle?
Don't expect it to do anything for your system admin tasks.
Okay.
One of the things I've been pushing, and I've talked to multiple vendors on getting this done, is but there's a downside, and I'll explain that in a second. But get my documentation AI'd, please. Documentation platforms integrate AI, allow me to search for my PSA or auto search for me PSAs, and allow me to be able to that's how you make it more efficient. The problem is a human is still putting that data into the documentation system, and humans suck.
Okay.
It's life. I'll admit it. I don't document very well.
Okay.
Sadly.
But hold on. So why are you asking AI to go into your documentation if you're saying the data is bad to begin with? Right?
Because
that's fruit of the poisonous tree.
True. But if there's a method to make people's jobs easier, it becomes more of an incentive to update said documentation. It becomes a requirement to update documentation, and there's more teeth to it than just saying update documentation. It makes it more of because the feature isn't there. People have to go and they have to use that search, and they don't like it, or the color's too blue for them. Whatever happens to be what bee in their bonnet today to deal with. But this is a good methodology for what they're using it for. But there's things you can use it today. Like you can do, you can have it analyze the incoming email and say, this is where it should go. And this is the client sentiment. And this is my recommendation. Like I've seen this potential problem before. They just need to reset their password, stuff like that. There's extremely basic things, but at the end of the day, that's not going to solve you from having to do the jobs that we are all in the industry to do, which means understand what the actual problem is and then fix the problem. It can assist in some of that, but it's not going to make it more efficient, especially the way it is now, because it's still wrong a lot.
I love you to death, and you've known me long enough that you will not take offense when I call bullshit.
No, not at all.
But my side of this. We've had this exact conversation before, so it's good to have both sides of it for sure. No, I honestly, I agree with you. People don't like documentation. We've seen enough times. Don't like creating documentation. They all bitch about it. They want.
I feel like it's a waste of time until they need it.
Why? Okay, until they need it.
Yeah.
But why? Why do you think it's a waste of time? What? Okay.
I don't think it's a waste of time.
I can solve this with the value statement of good documentation. I guarantee you my value statement's different from yours. Why do you think good documentation is needed?
It allows whoever has to look at the documentation to understand the current state and information of whatever system you may be working on, as well as any nuances that you don't normally get picked up on from being in the system.
So you think you need to be an expert to read the documentation, determine which is the right document, and then
you need to be an expert in what you're writing about specifically. Like if even if you've never touched it, but you know why you're writing what you're writing, that's what you need to be. But to be able to read it, you don't need to be an expert. Okay.
So you can bring it up, Danny. So my point of view is this: my value statement for documentation is very simply, it is not this is how you do it. It is this is how you do it at OIT. This is the level of service we want to deliver to somebody else. If you follow the same steps, you'll get to the same result, which is the end goal for everybody else. This is a takeaway from a lot of what I follow is Disney Academy. So Walt Disney is very famous for Disney World, is very famous for you can be on two opposite sides of the park. You ask 2 different cast members, what time is the 3 o'clock parade? They will both give you answers that will never say 3 o'clock, and will still give you the answer without making you feel stupid. Those are things that cannot be left to judgment. Those are things that have to be trained. It's called company communication or company voice. And it's not giving you the exact words you have to say, but it's no different than Bill Clinton notoriously or famously, when he pointed like this. He never pointed with a finger. It was this, or 2 fingers is also semi-acceptable in some circles. It's that. It's the training to make sure you don't have to worry about the nuances to get it there. Good example, FortiGate, right? I mean, if you use FortiGate, you probably know these things. But these are the exact steps in the exact order on the exact firmware to get us there. I don't want nuance. I don't want judgment. I want following documentation, which means
absolutely the nuance I was referring to was about the system. Like if it's something you're not familiar with, like writing the nuance of the system you're documenting. Like if
but why would you write? Okay, so that's a process thing, and I'll tell you how I get past that, because that is a very valid point.
Let me
that is absolutely
like QuickBooks.
Go ahead.
If they have a specific QuickBooks file install that needs to have this INI file in this specific location, that's not normal. That type of nuance is what I was referring to.
But it would be the same steps every single time, wouldn't it?
For that client, yes. But that's what I'm talking about, the nuance of that system. Like if you go into QuickBooks and you normally work into it, fine, no problems. But this specific configuration setting needs to be set for this specific client on this specific server. That type of nuance that's not normally done from a standardized documentation of QuickBooks management.
I feel like if I got Mendy on here, he'd be arguing about Hoodoo. No. Okay, so I get where you're saying these are all problem statements that would prevent the successful execution of documentation. I agree with you 100%. If you're not thinking about these things, your documentation will not be successful. Zero question. So I appreciate that you're bringing them up. My methodology is very simple. I could argue the same thing about saying which QuickBooks version or which QuickBooks edition, right? Because the steps for QuickBooks Enterprise 2024 is very different from QuickBooks Basic 2016, right? Does that even exist? I don't know. Anybody with accountant clients know they have every version of QuickBooks ever.
Except Cloud. They don't like Cloud.
Except Cloud. They never have Cloud. Anyway, that's a rant for another time. But whatchamacallit? If I'm a firm believer, if everybody used QuickBooks Cloud, MeBot would not be as successful as it is today. But because he figured out how to do QuickBooks updates, he owned the MSP space. That and AutoCAD. So, which I say it's a lot more work than just Darren, but the head gets the fame. But so my point is this: being able to, when you're doing the task, I will take, when somebody says, I don't know how to do this, they need to escalate. I will take the senior resource, wherever it's escalating to, will shotgun with the junior resource, show them how it's done, show them the why. You have to be a good educator. Here, you cannot get promoted if you can't educate, period. Because I have no interest for rocks. I have no interest for people that can't be team players. They teach the junior, but the junior has to digest the information, and the junior is the one that's writing that documentation. So we just created a second subject matter expert for that task. Now, that requires the escalation point to be knowledgeable in teaching the things that they may not think of, the whys of how they're making the decisions, and make sure that carries over the documentation. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to take an intern and have them be able to follow the documentation.
Absolutely.
For most things, assuming access. And,
I want to take my accountants and have them be able to follow the documentation.
So maybe that's where I'm a little different. Most people know I have multiple businesses, including real estate, including title, including a bunch of other stuff. This follows every one of my other companies. Every single one of them has the same thing. I'm sorry. I'm pointing at this. My documentation's right here.
I understand.
But
I'm your documentation.
But you get what I'm saying? Yeah, but we document everything. Now, where I could see AI helping here to that sysadmin task is you've seen tools like Scribe. Now WizardShot, Help Juice came out with WizardShot. Thank you, Dean. They will take it, you do it, and Step Recorder used to do this too, but it'll record the steps you're doing. But Scribe and WizardShot and some of the other ones will actually use AI to determine the context of what you were doing and give better descriptors for the steps so they're more generalized, more understandable by somebody that's not an expert. Because you and I talk like experts, right? We've done the things 1,000 times over.
We use different words. We shorten things because everyone's
exactly
understands the nuance.
Which isn't helpful, which is why the exact reason I don't like us writing the documentation. I like the junior writing the documentation.
It's less likely to get those.
Verbiage. Yes. So I could see AI helping like that.
Absolutely.
I could see AI saying the document came in. This is our standards template, which we have. This is our standard. Actually, Danny, bring up the standards template. It wouldn't be a bad thing to share for how to create a document. Look at the standards template, automatically look at, does the document meet those standards? How could it be improved? And then recommend changes back to the original author. And then, like you said, if the documentation at that point is pristine, or at least some modicum close to it, then you can have it auto ingest your data from your service desk and start recommending things. The last time this was done, we used this document. This was the result. And you can start and you can kick information back, feedback back to the documentation system and self-improve.
Yeah.
How to do all that? No freaking clue. Go talk to John Dupree or Mendy Green or somebody far smarter than me. But these ideas are possible, right? I mean,
absolutely. When I write documentation, when I write standard procedures and operations, I write to what I like to refer to as the lowest common denominator. Mm-hmm. So if I feel like the lowest common denominator who's ever going to read this can do it, and that includes me having to painfully explain how to click a button, I will do it. Because I know when you going into something brand new that you don't have experience with and following documentation, if it's not written well, and if it's not written as if to the lowest common denominator, you pick up on that really quickly, because there may be a reason that you have to click this button at this specific pixel, because some dev decided that pixel is a super secret pixel and no one else can see it. Like, you don't get that context or nuance in some of the documentation. So having the most generalized, super clear, exact instructions on to doing things is what you want to do. And that's how I try to write my document, my procedures.
It's hard. It's hard because
it's time,
and that's why we have a dedicated documentarian. We have somebody above that. Solutions Hub is our documentation team, so our training coordinator, and then they actually live under operations. But we have a 2-step review for that exact reason also, because there's times, like you say, things that are just obvious to us or anybody that's been experienced, we may skip a step. And then when you're writing documentation, you forget some templated stuff, right? So like, who's supposed to be reading this? Are you writing it for a tier 1, or are you writing it for your CFO? You know what I mean? What permissions do you need? What access do you need? So we have a standard for all of this stuff. Danny, you can share the link. I think we have it as public. You can put it in the chat. But yeah, we have all these standards specifically so the documentation matches, which I think is kind of cool. But if anybody has struggles with documentation or has their input, definitely let us know. Regardless of our opinions, Kyle and I are always open to other opinions and maybe learn something we don't know.
Absolutely. I may say you're wrong.
Yeah. Probably.
You're going to have to convince me. You're going to have to convince me I'm wrong, which is doable. I want to be clear.
Which is good,
doable.
Though.
Absolutely.
And that's the standard I hold my staff to. If you have an opinion or something you're going to bring to the table, you should be able to defend that opinion. You should be able to have clear reasons why you want to do this. You believe in it. Dean says not public. Danny, PDF it and then throw it over to Stephanie, and we'll post it on LinkedIn, and we'll share it that way, and we'll tag Kyle and Dean. That way people can have it. Cool. All right. So what do you say? Any other thoughts on that, or are we good to move on?
Documentation sucks. Writing it.
Yeah, documentation sucks.
I love reading it though. So those of you who like doing it, you crazy people, you keep doing it.
Yeah, Tim Golden right now is just in his happy place. Just yay, documentation.
Great. I'll read all of it sometimes. Like that's some of that policy stuff. That's lawyer speak, and I'm just kind of like fading out at that point. So
yeah. All right. So I believe I brought this up because I believe you guys don't do a triage and dispatch system. You do a tech select system, right?
We do a triage system. We
do a triage. Okay.
The system I would
Well, hold
like
on
to
to
do
that.
is a
Let's read
triage.
this and then,
Okay.
yeah, let's read this and then definitely, because I think you and I have different dispatch methodologies. All right. So, hey guys, I'd be interested to know how you guys are doing your dispatching triaging. A bit about us: 22 engineers on the service desk after MSA clients, or looking after the MSA clients. Team of 3 service delivery managers looking after SLAs, reporting, being the conduit between the client and tech sales when things are on fire. And they do monthly reporting. Think of them as relationship managers. Okay, this is a mature MSP. Awesome. We have a team of tech people. We operate 24/7. Wow, half a dozen frontline guys on the phones during the day, some overnight guys, level 2s who frontline guys escalate to, and a team of level 3s. Pretty standard so far. We had a dispatcher who didn't want to do it anymore and trained up another one, and he has changed his mind. So I'm trying to think of a new way to handle it. Now we are 24/7. Having one person do it doesn't really cover the other 16 hours and sick, holiday leave, etc. I'm thinking of bringing another frontline engineer and then rostering people to do it. So every member on every shift does an hour or so a day, spread the load. Oof, that seems painful to me. It's a bit to give engineers a bunch of tickets to work on and then get them to watch a service queue for anything urgent. So we'll have to be very structured. Good on you. We use ConnectWise for ticketing and PF for some ticket handling and triage. This to me sounds like I love this. Not because of what he wants to do or they want to do, or not because I think they're doing something right or wrong, but because the person's posing very good questions, I think should be asked up front. If we're going to have one person, how are we going to handle when they take off, when they're sick, when they're on vacation? A lot of people don't think that way. They think, do I need a dispatch?
Yeah.
So
What is dispatch?
before we even get it, yeah. So before we get into it, good on you to the OP.
Amen.
I'm very impressed on that. Kudos from us. All right, Kyle, initial thoughts. What are you seeing here, dude?
So I want to be clear to state that initially, there are many ways to do dispatch and triage, and all of them are correct. That's an asterisk on the word correct, because there's it all depends on the company, the processes and procedures, and how your SLAs and how you operate as a company.
Yeah.
With this, the way I would want to structure a help desk to do triage and dispatch is I would have triage would be an initial pre-level 1 individual engineer who can do basic things, password resets, small troubleshooting things, be able to gather information to better understand the issue. And if they can't solve it in a quick phone call that the client's calling into, pass that up. And that gets to a level 1, and then it goes on and so forth. And so, that process. Dispatching is a little bit different because I'm not fully sold on the heavy dispatching that some companies push and some consultants push. Giving someone 8 tickets and having them schedule, based on the estimated time, having them schedule those throughout the day and they'll be on a calendar. I'm not sure I agree with that type of dispatch. But in the system that I would have personally, I would rotate the quote unquote primary dispatcher. Generally probably level 1 or level 2, who would do the easy tickets. That would be what tickets they do if they don't have anything to dispatch, and they would hand out the other tickets. And I would rotate it specifically so it's not unfair. If you happen to be unfriendly to someone, they will be unfriendly just back to 100%. You. So it helps eliminate some of that, at least until it becomes egregious, where it's just like they're fighting and giving someone tier 3 tickets at level 1 because they don't like each other. But that's a management step-in issue. But that's generally how I would try to work.
Those personality conflicts absolutely happen. And I mean, even with our own dispatch, our dispatch are not technical. Well, they're trained, but they're not. They're technical dispatchers, but they're not previous techs. There's like a 0.5, which I hate the term, but we all use it. So, but if they're not technical, be prepared for there to be a little bit of rift between the technical team and what they perceive should be understandable from their dispatcher. And there's a delta that takes time train and
Absolutely.
handle the personalities and stuff too. Like, so recognize these are things that come in. This person's thinking of taking the techs that are already technical, they're already doing the tech work, and having them be dispatchers. I have feelings about that, and we used to do it, which is why I have my feelings about that. But regardless of that, the techs are going to appreciate it more because the techs are going to handle like a tech. The downside of it is you need to make sure that tech that's dispatching doesn't try to handle all the tickets themselves, because we're like that. I can do it faster myself. Let me do it.
Right.
Which is why I don't.
Let me just reset your
which is why I
password real quick.
don't
I'll
think.
get you. Take.
I got you. That's a click and sip. It's done.
Yeah.
Boom, push. So, but like that's the thing that kills me though. Like the skills needed to dispatch, in my opinion, the skills needed to triage are not the skills needed to troubleshoot a ticket. It is identify what is the problem statement, distill it down to something that's understandable easily from looking at the subject, make sure type, subtype, for us, reason, for you, or for managed user. I know you're not a managed user. For managed users, it would be type, subtype, item, Halo, Datto, they all have their conventions, and then impact, urgency if you're ConnectWise world, or priority if you're everybody else. Yeah, those are skills. And then monitoring SLAs, monitoring response to the initial ticket that comes in, having the skills of how to de-escalate or understanding when to escalate. These are very specific skills that I would not expect a technical person to have innately. Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't spend the money to train them because I want them to be a better technical person. Like that to me, the escalation to me is dispatcher to tech team, and they're done dispatching. But I want them to grow in their tech skills, not the other way around. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the reason why my system that I would have, it's not that I wouldn't have someone to be able to do that. It was more of, as a technician, most people don't know how to develop those skills, those customer service skills. And sadly, the best way to do it is on the front lines, taking shots, and having discussions about how to better handle that, and working with them and having them better understand. And that becomes monumentally important as you get higher up in the technical levels, because as a tier 3, being able to go to a client and look them dead in the eye and say, this is stupid and here's why, in an elegant, professional way, is massively beneficial to not only your help desk and your company, but to the client. So having that, I think forcing them to learn those skills as a first, because they're glorified ticket takers at that point. That's their primary. They're having some conversations. They're dealing with difficult clients. They're working towards, it's that level.
And an argument for the technician that's dispatching, because they have more technical experience and acumen, they may identify areas for process improvement and efficiency that a dispatcher might not, because they don't know the whole picture. They don't know everything. So there's pros and cons, zero question.
Which is why I predated my answer with every system works depending on so many different factors, and you should. Is one of the things I like to push off is iteration. It is beyond important to iterate everything in your business, your staff, your training, your systems, your processes, your procedures, your SOPs, what color you want your Kool-Aid to be that morning. Iterate everything, because if you don't, you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice.
Well, and I agree wholeheartedly. And that goes to dovetail back to our previous conversations, though. We talked about doing the auditing process and the migration process, how we've iterated on that over the years. We do account audits and software audits. Some tools like SaaS alerts and some other stuff have made that a lot easier nowadays than it used to be, 5 years ago. But we do those audits every year now, because there's always leakage. There's always something that you're going to miss. It's going to fall through the cracks. So don't assume if you were perfect yesterday, tomorrow can't be better. That's actually something we live by here. So I love that. Our personal process, and going back to that other CoPilot thing, my personal process, and I apologize to the audience. It sounds like both of us have clicky keys. So
I absolutely.
I know I do, and I'm trying to correct for that. No, it's good, man. What should we call it? But my particular thing is going back to that sysadmin M365. if I'm iterating on the conversation we had with the documentation and the service desk being able to ingest your PSA or your ticketing system, I do believe triaging can be automated eventually. You have the data, what the outcome was, you have the data of where the data came from to start the process. So you have the ability to look back after the fact, see what the results are, see if it could have been improved. Do we have multiple ticket touches? Did it take longer than what our SLA is? Did we have back and forth on understanding what the terminology was? AI can understand all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use AI to self-improve. And again, I have no freaking clue. Go use a
the issue that I bring up is it goes back to the human suck.
Yes.
The issue you're going to run into is that the information you get is going to be from the client, from that accountant who doesn't really know what's happening. He just knows that he can't open QuickBooks.
Well, that's why you go on both sides, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're using the last tickets we got from this client, to your original point on documentation, is a client specific. Do we have a greater, right? If we were distilling it down, we go to the greatest possible source of documentation. Then is there something more specific for that user? Were there previous tickets from this user that had a similar request? What were the outcomes? I think those things will balance that because it will be outcome driven if it's done properly. Separately from that, the suspenders part of the belt and suspenders is you have a service manager. You have somebody looking for quality. You have somebody looking for, at that point, the quality of the data in your system becomes of utmost importance, but you already have a manager making sure that your outcome on your tickets is proper. Your SLA should be. Yeah. Having a dispatcher without a service manager to me seems pointless, in my opinion, because the manager is going to be saying, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And if you don't have a dispatcher, or if you have a dispatcher, nobody's correcting them. It's just the text bitching about it. Yeah. So my opinion, don't get a dispatcher before you have a technical service manager.
That runs the whole thing, not just some small subset of that team.
Correct. Yeah. Service manager. And I agree with you I'm a firm believer, if you're going to go a technical route at all, you need to be on the front desk. You need to hit 2 years on the service desk. You need to be talking to clients. You need to hear people bitching about they can't print in black and white because they're out of cyan, or they forgot their password. They lost their MFA access to their password manager or whatever, and they didn't document backup codes. You need to go through all those frustrating situations. You need to learn to make those result in positive outcomes where the person's thanking you for the event, where you materially affected their day in a positive manner. That gives you the foundation of how to have those conversations as you get, because once you get into business conversations, it's just harder. It's not easier, So I agree with you. I'm a firm believer. Every tech needs to start at the service desk. Most departments need to start with somebody talking to clients first. That gives you the empathy, that gives you the EQ, that gives you the skills. I've often said on the phone to psychology. Oh, for sure. Because they all suck until you actually start talking to the person.
They all have nuances too.
They lost their password manager because their phone was stolen in Paris. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like 3 months ago.
Print because 3 months ago, and they're having, they can't print. They don't have cyan because maybe the company's having budgetary issues. There's always more to it, but you're not going to get that from the ticket. You're only going to get that from the conversation.
Yep.
And I often say, on the phone is psychology, off the phone is technology. So it's those are the Rays that Dean likes to talk about.
I mean, that's a great simplification of the process of learning.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we've beaten that horse enough. I do feel that you and I could probably talk for a couple of hours on the one topic. Maybe we should submit some lightning talks on it. So we'll get we'll find the LinkedIn post to add to the show notes as well, and we'll put it in the MMN Discord because we do have a bunch of people that are that I think we have some very good information, and kind of just, you and I have a large group of friends that are very, very, very smart and have great ideas. Not all of them are very comfortable getting on a microphone. Yes.
Internal, which is why group-wise. Maybe not on a microphone.
Group-wise, they'll tell us. But yeah. Group-wise, they're like, you're an asshole, but they won't get on stage and talk. Yeah. Which is why I give credit to Ashley Cooper, who was, nervous about last year, and she did phenomenally last year. So, and that's kind of the point, right? Get some low stress opportunities to speak and start building that courage. Alex Boyd is going through the same thing. Nice. So yeah, you use it. Use MSP GeekCon to improve yourself in ways maybe you didn't think of. Absolutely. And what are those dates again, Kyle?
May 19th through the 21st. It's a Sunday, Monday, and a Tuesday.
Love it. And I will probably be there. My daughter has a house in Orlando, so I will probably get there like the Wednesday before for all sorts of shenanigans. I'll probably stay a couple days after for Disney or whatever. And plenty of us are planning like stuff around GeekCon as well. So if you're going to go in early, let us know on the GeekCon channel on MSP Geek, and we'll plan some shit.
You know what I'm looking forward to, Ray?
What are you looking forward to?
Tech Bar on Monday night in a nightclub. We rented out a nightclub.
I think that's the first time Tech Bar has ever been in an actual nightclub. We've done bars. We did it with an alcohol, with a vodka company. I don't think we've ever actually been at a bar. That is pretty damn cool. That's awesome. And for those that don't know the nostalgia, we do Tech Bar at ITNS, IT Nation Secure, IT Nation Connect. Thanks to ConnectWise, they host us. They're very big on supporting the community. Same thing with MSP Geek. Same thing with CW Boss. They're very big on supporting the community. So they've opened the space. And Kyle, when he's in attendance, which I'm very upset you're not going to be at Secure, sir.
Oh, no.
But Kyle is always my co-host in the live tech bars, and this was one of the earlier ones, the 2022 one that we did. But I'm very much looking forward to it. It is going to be lots of shenanigans. Kelvin has bought way too much stuff for the event. Nick
I don't even know what he's bought.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's the best part, because it's supposedly sponsored by ConnectWise, CyberDrain, and OIT, which means the three biggest idiots making, idiot decisions, having fun. And so we haven't exactly been collaborating well, but I know we're all working on shit, because we'll be like, oh, I just bought this stupid stuff. I'm like, is that for the party? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
I regret everything. The only thing I've done is set up food and the bar.
It can't be worse than the lobby racing, right? With Jonathan Crow. So
it's
we can't show those videos.
Now there's alcohol involved.
Now there's alcohol involved, and I'm trying to see if I can secure the fog machine or the mist machine. We'll see. All right, so lots of goots. Yes, apple juice and tequila, absolutely. That was a Tony Francisco thing we had on Tech Bar last night. It was actually so much better than I thought it was going to be.
Really? That sounds gross. Like immediately reading
it sounds gross. I'm telling you, it's good. Not as good as a Spoonie, but it's good. So
so it's I know we're like running out of time, but interesting story. Sorry. I wanted to swap out the special drinks and have a different one every year, and I made some, but I needed to test them, and I just ran out of time to get them tested. Like I had ChatGPT generate a bunch of named drinks with ingredients.
Sir, you happen to be close friends with somebody that happens to run a bar show, who is more than happy to assist in testing concoctions in advance.
We're gonna have to set that up next year to make that happen.
Is this the not in year two?
Well, I had it, like it was there. It's just it was never high enough priority to take a look at it and get something resolved. So the Spoonie is back for 2024.
Awesome. Honestly, I'm happy to hear that. Another year of Spoonie is a great thing. I know Kyle and I or Kelvin and I are, or Clevin, depending on what your preference is. I know Kyle and I are, Jesus Christ, I just did it again. It was a rough tech bar. I know Kelvin and I have talked about some drinks. I know Elle has talked about it as well. So we may have some stuff that we just like go stupid on at the party. But I do like that idea of having an official drink, an official concoction every year, a little different.
Yeah. I was trying to do that gives everybody this year.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. So that's even more reason, if you don't have your GeekCon tickets, go to GeekCon so you can try a Spoonie, because we will not have Spoonies without Kyle at IT Nation Secure. So we won't have them again till Connect. So
I also want to
GeekCon. Go ahead.
No, I just want to be clear, but I didn't name the drink. I'm not that egotistical.
The drink is it is named after you, sir.
It is named after me. But I just happened to drink it because one of the bartenders was like, have you done this? And then have you done this? And it just became a thing.
Okay, but God spoke to Moses with a burning bush. Like nobody says, oh well, the burning bush gets all the credit, right? Yes, I'm extrapolating here, but besides being extremely exaggerant, it's still facts. You were there at the birthplace of the Spoonie, and you popularized it.
Yeah, Wes Spencer named it after me. So thanks, Wes.
So we have to give the credit. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now I have to explain it.
Your last chance to have have a Spoonie as the official drink of MSP GeekCon is this year, 2024. What are the dates one last time, sir?
May 19th to the 21st. We still have a few tickets available. I may be able to get a hotel room for you
Ooh,
maybe they're full.
Nice. All right. Hit up the Spoonie. We will all be there. It'll be a phenomenal time. So much education, and it will not be hard to take the ROI back to your boss. And if you're having trouble convincing your boss why you should go, hit any of us up. We'll talk to your boss, or we'll give you the reasons. And I think it's even on the MSP GeekCon site to an initial letter, but that can always be approved on. All right, Danny, what do we have coming up, dude? Danny had tequila and apple juice with me last night, so he's also struggling. So
he can't see his keyboard. That's clicky. He has to hear the right click.
I'll bring it up. All right. So we have Community Live we're having right now, AI Roundup. Oh, this is old. I apologize. That's why you can't find it. All right. So AI, we have MSP Dispatch on Monday. On Tuesday, now we have a new live show with our friend Tom Lawrence. He is the host of the live show every Wednesday at 12:30. I think it might be a different time this week, but he likes doing the live show, and I love having him do it. So he's doing that, and then Thursday, Friday with Tony Francisco, myself. AI Roundup on Wednesday. Wins and losses, I believe, is next week as well, and then we are not going to live stream from the party because what happens at GeekCon stays at GeekCon. But we will be posting photos and stuff from the event and other videos not of the party. So with that, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Kyle, it's been way too long. I definitely look forward to seeing you next week, brother.
Me too.
And today is my son's birthday. So Giovanni, happy 10th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Kyle, I won't dox you on the age, but I know your birthday is this weekend. Happy early birthday to you as well, my friend.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, till next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.